Okay, so today is kind of a big day. It'll be my first time ever doing any sort of React form of content in years of doing content online. So I should give some of my background. But basically, I always used to review films for a time professionally and then just a lot online. I used to make videos on it, write articles, things like that, just something I always was interested in. So it would be interesting to combine that into even a field that I've criticized so much, just the idea that sort of React content where people are doing face cams and they're showing off their expressions and all these kind of things that should have nothing to do with it. Like, just to compare what a review is versus a reaction, it's kind of like a review is like you're giving analysis. So the majority of it is you talking and analyzing, going deep into thought and consideration and comparing it to older works and things like that, analyzing techniques, whatever the case may be, giving some sort of insights. Whereas reaction is just like, wow, we're looking at this moment, we're just watching the whole thing. And even if they show like half an hour of a 2 hour movie, like they're showing a lot of it, which is both bad for copyright reasons, like, oh, you're stealing something, but it's also bad just in terms of you're making it more about that, and then also the face cam and like living vicariously through them. This is why it's kind of popular. Not so much that they're doing anything insightful or even trying to, right, delve anything beneath the surface level of just watching it and reacting to it in like a stream of consciousness or whatever. But they're also making it more about them. That's why they do face cam. So the reason why that sort of thing is so popular, even not just in terms of movies, but TV shows or even like whatever, like people watch scary compilation videos or funny compilation videos, it's the same psychological tendency behind it, is just you're kind of doing it in such a way that people have watched or liked something before themselves, so they just want to live vicariously through that, which is fine, like confirmation bias type of thing. Or they want to get angry and triggered by somebody who doesn't like it the same way or whatever. But it doesn't go sometimes deep enough, is my whole criticism of it. And so I don't like that whole idea. The way that I'm going to do it is more like with just a timestamp. So it'll show like, okay, this is the part that I'm watching it at, and you can kind of watch along. And so it'll be like the whole thing, even though I'm criticizing that, but I won't really show anything from it, at least at the beginning, since this is my first time doing that kind of thing. So it'll be, that'll obviously avert copyright issue, but it'll also allow for the fact that you can actually see the whole long form thing. One of my primary prognostications always was the long form postula, just like where if something is worth doing, it's worth doing, in a very long form sense, right? So you don't just do like little. So on one hand, I'm criticizing them for showing too much, but then if you are going to do that, even though I'm not going to show it, it's just like you're going into greater depth with it. So like I'll pause in between. Like if you're going to do something, do it all the way then. So yeah, I won't be doing face cam there, as I never have, and I guess I'll just give some background on myself too. So like psychology was like kind of my area of study, so I worked in that field for a while. So you'll hear a lot of references to that, and just it's a form of like I'll try to psychoanalyze characters or whatever, and I'll just go into that as far as something that just interests me. So that was a long time ago, and then obviously I used to review films professionally, written reviews, etc., and then I did a lot of videos and stuff online, blogs and stuff. So this will be like sort of an extension of that, but not quite the same way as I've done it before. And like I said, I've even made fun of this kind of thing, but I'll still give it a shot, may as well. And then beyond that, what else did I do that's relevant? I guess I did a lot of online content to do with that, and then I eventually started to do like a debate format. We used to discuss psychological topics, philosophy, whatever, different issues. And then from that went on for actually a couple years. And then beyond that, I did all kind of gaming stuff like permadeath runs, hard mode challenge runs, whatever, right? So that went on for years as well. So just to give a background, like I've done all kinds of things online, probably besides just simply reacting to something. So I found a way to avoid it at every turn. And so, and like even when doing the gaming stuff, like if you were to do a story game, I would do it kind of the same way that you might see here, where like you'd really get immersed and analyze the characters and the story and make predictions and things like that. So it'll be similar in that sense. Part of the reason I guess I'm doing this too is that like I don't have as much time to stream anymore, like when doing stuff like that. So this is at least something I can just do where I record it, and it's a little more comfortable that way. So this will be like just some revival of an old format, even though it's not exactly the same, but I'll still try to make it that way. I'll try to combine it with that. So it's the same idea of like React content, but with no face cam. That's much more long form, where you are watching the whole thing, but you're not showing any of it. I'll also pause it a lot, so you'll see that with the timestamp. I have to figure out how to do all this, but just I'll put the timestamp in such a way that, okay, I'll pause it at like 25 minutes, so now I'll go on like a tangent for a couple of minutes, and then you can skip ahead to when I start watching it again. But basically I'll keep going on these little sidebars about it. The one thing that's kind of hard to do is for some reason I keep correcting myself for stopping here, so then I'll have to go back and edit it. That doesn't seem to happen in live streams as much. I don't know why. Like I'm better at doing it that way on the spot, whereas here you have the luxury. See, if you're doing it live, you don't have a choice. You can't just stop and correct yourself, or you do, but you kind of just make it work. Here it's like, oh, you'll just stop altogether and be like, okay, I'll edit that out later, but you won't have the choice to do that if it's, if people are actually watching live. So what better movie to start it with than the Barbie movie, which I haven't seen. Obviously, I've seen some memes on it, like the I Am Knuff stuff, or whatever, Ryan Gosling singing a song, or whatever, Margot Robbie's feet being such a big part of the trailers and everything. My friend had a funny comment about that, just like, Quentin Tarantino in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood or whatever. Oh, he exploited and mistreated Margot by just simply using her to show off her feet, and that was like the only scene she was in or whatever, Sharon Tate, that she played. But then on the flip side, like, oh, Greta Gerwig's basically doing the same thing, like how it's at least featured so prominently in the trailers and things like that. Like somehow every movie she's in, there's a scene like that. So it's not just Tarantino's fault that way. But no, everybody complained about that, but nobody was complaining about this one. But no, I've never seen it, and it's an interesting choice. But for some reason, it's been compared even to like The Truman Show, which everyone knows is I've considered to be like the best movie ever. Not like one of them, but literally the best movie ever. And then, I mean, such a comparison isn't necessary to that, but I get probably like the reality TV element of it, or like the celebrity around Barbie's character probably, or something like something to do with basically real world versus her world, or something like that. So I could understand maybe why that comparison is made. And at least when you first heard Greta Gerwig's name associated with the project, it's kind of a good thing, because she has made some really good movies, and so you would know it's more than just a surface level piece of entertainment or something like that. There'll be at least a little bit more to it. So what else? It's an interesting first choice, and I'll just kind of watch through it. And I guess I should always say like what the version of it is I'm watching. Like it'll be, just for the sake of timestamps, but it'll be either just like the standard version or like what platform I'm watching it on. So if I'm watching it on HBO Max, then you can match the timestamp on there, or even if you're watching it on a different platform, I guess I should show like the total time so if it's the same version or something, if it's like some sort of director's cut or whatever. I don't think it really should be. I was going to do this actually with I do like these weird formats sometimes. Like I was going to go through every single thing on there, like let's say on a particular streaming platform. It could be Netflix, it could be that, and just like watch everything in order that I haven't seen, because of course I've seen literally thousands of movies, but just in general. So I was going to go in order. So I started with like 500 Days of Summer, and like, why is that the first one? Because it starts with a number instead of a letter, right? So I watched that, and I'm always giving like some sort of analysis in my head. I never write anything down, but that one felt like, okay, there were at least a few notable things to talk about with that. So I thought, why I should have done this sort of format with it. I may as well just watch it like I would normally do, but just give like a running commentary as I go through it. And so we could do the same thing here. Not that this is exactly in alphabetical order, but I could do it that way. Like I just go on a gauntlet with go in order of every single one, and just see whatever happens to come about. Of course, a lot of them I would have already seen, so I don't want to do that, but okay, so I got everything set up. So just a few final points before I start. Basically, I normally preach that you should go into a movie or something not knowing anything about it, like even preferring not even to see trailers and stuff. But in this case, it's kind of hard to avoid all the meme culture and hearing certain things about it. Or I guess the best solution to that is to see it right when it comes out. But even then, you would see potentially trailers and stuff ahead of time. So a few things that I heard about it that I maybe didn't mention in the other part is just that the song Barbie World actually doesn't appear in the movie, which is shocking to me. Maybe they had some sort of copyright issue, and you might think, oh, how could that be? Because it's Barbie anyway, they own the rights. But that was a different band, some Aqua, whatever. And so somehow maybe they had a fight with it, or maybe they just chose not to do it. But you'd almost expect it to be in like the title crawl, like right at the beginning, or in the credits or something, somewhere featured in there. The song that you associated more with is whatever that one is. Dance the Night Away or something that was in the trailers all the time. It almost feels like that's their title song more so than that, but it's just shocking that Barbie World wouldn't appear in there. And then the second thing is the fact that Margot Robbie, of course, is a producer, and I might have mentioned this, but just her last several movies haven't been very successful financially, and so she produced it. It's like she wants to just do it herself. And of course, this was very successful, but she wasn't her own even first choice, or she wasn't the first choice overall to play the title role. It was someone else who I can't remember her name, but yeah, there was somebody else, and she had scheduling issues or chose not to be in it, and so then she was the backup, Margot. So that's interesting to think about, that she wasn't even the first choice. And then finally, I'll just be using kind of this timer and timestamp. So I'll put like probably in the edited final version, like I'll put on the screen like a big thing that says pause if it's paused, and a big thing that says play if it's playing. But basically, you'll just see the timestamp and you can sync it up and watch it yourself. So I won't be showing even a second of it, just in principle, because I don't really like to do that, and I like it to be more about, the long form idea. So I'll show every second of it, but also I'm not going to, like, I'll show every second of my reaction to it, but I won't show a second of the movie or the sound itself. It'll just be me sitting here like this. But on the flip side, you'll also have the ability to, like, I'll do a bunch of these sidebars. So like I'll pause it at some specific time, let's say 25:00:00. So then you'll know, okay, now he'll go on a rant for 10 minutes about something, all the thoughts that he has up to this point, even though obviously I'll be talking throughout it too. And so then you can just skip that part, and then whatever, like then we'll start it exactly. I'll try to make it very easy to tell, like exactly where we're starting or stopping, or I'll do it at like some major scene transition or something like that. But as kind of syncing up the time is a little bit tricky to do, but this is better than just me showing the whole thing. There's so many good things I could react to. Like, I've never seen The Walking Dead. I've never seen the Game of Thrones. There's so many good series, out there. I guess my whole principle of that is I don't really have the patience for it. Like, if it's a super long series that goes on for hundreds of episodes or something, either there's too much filler or other nonsense in there, or it's just the principle that, if you're going to watch one episode, then you want to watch the whole thing. Otherwise, what's the point? That's why movies can be so good, because even though, oh yeah, it's longer than an individual episode of something, it's also like it's a complete experience from beginning to end, where it tells a full story. Of course, never mind the fact that it could be part of a series itself of like whatever, some of these over bloated whatever superhero series or whatever, where they share the universes, or even just something with a bunch of sequels. The reality is that at least you get the idea that you get a full experience from start to end that doesn't go on for literal hundreds of episodes. Then it feels like, what's the point unless you're going to watch the whole thing? Even with movies, I could sometimes be like that, where I'd watch like some little part of it. Right, I'll watch like 30 minutes and then I'll just stop. Not even because it's bad or I'm bored or whatever, just because you sometimes have trouble finishing it. You start it, then you start something else. So you'll watch like the first half hour of 50 different things and never actually see the whole thing of any of them. Or yeah, even that was one I wanted to do, because I had seen the first Harry Potter movie on a whim or whatever, just for some reason. Again, I had seen the first two originally when I was younger, but I had seen the first one, and it was actually a lot better or more immersive or whatever than I thought. So I figured I should go through each one like that. And of course, anything from the third one on, I haven't even seen at all. At least I'm pretty sure. I can't remember. I definitely remember the first two, although evidently I didn't remember that well, because there was some major like twist character that I didn't remember, so that was still pretty fresh actually. And yeah, see, there were so many good analysis points that came from that. Like, for example, applying like a little bit of game theory to it, like how Dumbledore says at some point earlier in the movie that the Philosopher's Stone can turn, whatever, dust to gold or something like that, and it can turn human flesh to stone or something. So he's saying like both the positive and negative implications of it, right? It can turn some undesirable thing into something, so magical and wonderful, or whatever. It's like some old adage like that you can turn something to gold, anything to gold, right? But then on the flip side, it's like for that final scene, basically was my point, where Quirrell is trying to grab the stone from Harry, and Harry hasn't really used any magic the whole movie. He's sort of just whatever. He's along for the ride almost, and so he could almost accidentally, inadvertently use the power of the stone on Quirrell and therefore turn him to stone. It's sort of like a last second, what do you call it, like an adrenaline driven thing. So he's not really doing it consciously, but just because he happens to be clutching the stone, trying to keep it away from Quirrell, and then he touches Quirrell to try to push him away or whatever, keep him away from him, he does that as sort of a last desperate response, last resort. The same way that, for example, he does it without meaning to at the beginning of the movie, like where he traps his brother or whatever, his stepbrother in something in a zoo, right? He doesn't really even realize what he did, but just because he has that magical capability, it comes out in moments of stress or anxiety or high emotion or whatever. So it makes sense that he would use the stone to do that to save him. But instead, they just kind of write it off like, oh, it was the power of love or something stupid like that. And obviously, there's something else in the rest of the series that maybe answers that. But even regardless of that, in and of itself, that just kind of works better, right? Like his parents did something that protected him from whatever Voldemort, even though that's not even Voldemort doing it there. That's actually Quirrell still. Like he have whatever. It just works better in a game theory sense. Like we've mentioned earlier in the movie that the stone has all these powers and it can turn, human flesh to stone or something, which is treated at that point obviously as a negative. Like, why would you want to do that? But then Harry's innate magical abilities come out at the end just to show, like, oh, I'm inadvertently doing it in a moment of panic just because I happen to be touching the stone and I happen to be touching him, right, just to protect myself and keep it away. But it would make perfect sense that again, somebody talented with magic would be able to do that using the stone, as we've already established it can do, even without meaning to, because again, his talent is sort of raw and untrained, and sometimes we've already seen earlier in the movie that he uses it without meaning to use it. So once again, he could be using it without meaning to use it in this exact way. Right, and so that would make perfect sense. And then the other notable thing is just the simple fact that he doesn't cast a single spell during the entire movie, which is a great amount of restraint to show again he's very talented, but he's kind of raw and unrefined with his abilities, and so therefore, unless you want to count like using the broom to float and all that, like with the Quidditch match and stuff, obviously that's a form of casting a spell, sure. But as far as like actually verbally saying one or doing one in any other way, you don't see him on screen actually do that a single time, which is almost kind of comical in a way to think like how can he be attending this school, but he's so young and so early on and his abilities are so untapped that you can kind of appreciate that they don't go overboard and act like, oh, he's such a magical prodigy or genius. Everything he's doing is either by accident or just by happenstance, or just he's watching Hermione and Ron do a lot of it for him, right? Like they almost each have their specialties. Harry does the Quidditch match, so he's able to use the broom very well. Hermione seems to be good at almost everything else, like Leviosa and all these other ones. She's just like an all-around prodigy. And then Ron, I almost don't even remember him doing much of anything. He does it more just on instinct, or he's doing like the little wizard's chess. He's able to do that pretty well. So they all kind of are unrefined, except Hermione actually seems to be by far the most talented in that one. She seems to be able to do pretty much anything she wants, except for the Quidditch match. I think she struggled with the broom a little bit. But yeah, if you were to like rank their power levels at that point, she's definitely the number one. Okay, so the intro's all good, as my lengthy intros tend to be like that, so it's fine. But the only other thing I think I forgot to mention in that, like I recorded it, now I'm actually doing it on stream, but um, the fact of genres being used as an excuse, basically. So you're going into this, like, it's a comedy, and so sometimes people use that as an excuse for a genre, like the reason why that Adam Sandler movie was bad or a Jim Carrey movie was bad is because, oh, it's a comedy, so don't take it so seriously, so you can't criticize it. But I hate that because there are still good comedies and bad comedies, just like with horror movies, right? There's a good horror movie, a bad horror movie. There's some that rely on jump scares. So just because you know it's horror doesn't mean like, oh, it's just scary and it has a couple jump scares and therefore it's adequate. Like you know what you're getting into and you know what to expect. Right, there is a such thing as difference between like whatever Halloween, the original, and some of the sequels or whatever. Like there's always trash, or like I always hold it to a high standard of like some movies that are about more than just a genre. So horror is especially bad for that, where it'll just be about, oh, the killer's coming to kill everybody and they try to survive, and then the movie ends by either escaping the killer or killing them, and that's it. Like there's no other narrative to it. That's why like Signs 2002 is one of my favorite movies ever, even with its flaws with the aliens and some of the stuff people make fun of, because it's at least about something more than just the aliens, right? It's almost not about them at all. His loss of faith, getting it back, all that kind of stuff, which is almost what The Exorcist was trying to do, but I feel like it didn't work as well, because obviously, spoilers for the original Exorcist, the guy dies at the end, but basically he loses his faith too. So in that sense, I guess you don't really think of it like that, but it almost copied it. Signs copied The Exorcist or remade it, but replaced the demon with aliens. So here we're gonna just go by the timestamp, and the one rule of mine that I'm breaking when it comes to how you should watch movies or whatever is like, okay, you should watch them sort of uninterrupted, don't be distracted, anything like that. That I'm doing. But the one thing is it's not in full screen because I'm watching like my chat, I'm watching like the timer. So, but I'm not going to show even a second from the movie. And it's an interesting choice for the first one, but again, I'm not going to hold that against the movie that, oh, it's supposed to be a comedy or whatever. It's just more like you can whatever. You shouldn't defend it like that either. Because yeah, I've seen that argument so many times. I'll shit over a Adam Sandler movie, and then they'll be like, "Oh well, it's just it's funny, whatever. It's supposed to be stupid." Like there's still a certain craft to it that you can measure. Okay, so let's start. I'll try not to pause it too much, but that is somewhat my trademark. So let's see. You know what's annoying about this is, so I'm watching on HBO Max, but it'll still play an ad at the beginning of it. So it's kind of hard to get the timestamp exactly aligned. It's like they bypass, they say it's ad free, but it technically is an ad for their own service, like something on their, like they're showing an ad for HBO Max on HBO Max. Makes perfect sense. Okay, here we go. I fucked up. Okay, this will take a little bit of getting used to. Okay, wait a second. Damn it, it keeps doing it. Yeah, if you're watching along, it should be exactly right there, starting with the HBO logo. On here, if you're watching somewhere else, I'm not exactly sure, but I assume it'd be pretty much the same version of it. So it might be like a second or two difference. The one thing is that Barbie World doesn't appear in the movie, so you would expect it right now. As the title crawl comes, right, you should hear Barbie World coming on. Maybe that's too, cliche, but that's not why they didn't put it in there. I don't know what happened. Probably some sort of rights issue that they didn't pay them enough or something, even though they could have obviously afforded it. Using the Barbie font for all the the title cards and stuff. Yeah, it is cool that Margot Robbie produced it herself, so she kind of recovered from the bad reputation she got for the last several movies where she hasn't made that much money, actually. We start off in the desert. Oh, this is like the trailer. That's like 2001: A Space Odyssey. I didn't think it would be actually in the movie. I thought this will be like some in-universe marketing campaign that they're doing, I guess. So there'll be all these like in references to different versions of Barbie and stuff that obviously not everybody is gonna have known going into this, unless you are a fan of the dolls themselves. But like, this must be the first one ever where she's wearing the black and white whatever tank top thing. They could afford the rights to this fucking song from 2001, but they couldn't afford the rights to their own Barbie World song. Very interesting dynamic there. Oh, it might be. Oh yeah, I think that's what it is. Like where they every character is gonna be named either Ken or Barbie because there's like so many different ones. There's some stupid meme like that. See, this is like some Barbie related song, but it's not the one that you would expect. I'm thinking maybe now I will have to add. Like I was gonna just like do this raw, but then you don't want to talk over it either. So here's the classic scene with the heels coming off, where she like had to hold onto a table or something. See, that's what I don't like. How I know so much about it just from memes or pop culture, or whatever, even without having watched it. Of all movies, I can't believe this was compared to The Truman Show, though, which everyone knows I consider like the best movie ever. So I get the point, though. It's probably like, okay, it's a satire on the whole thing, and like whatever. She's like living in her own little sea haven utopia type of world. So definitely not what I expected, though, as a comparison. Will Ferrell's apparently in it. Like even what she's eating is probably a reference to something. It says cow on it. Like there's gonna be a lot of that's what I hope it's not. Like it's just a bunch of jokes on that, and there's no other story or depth to it. It's just like surface level references to stuff in the Barbie universe. Like just a play on, oh look, we're dolls and we're acting like people, or vice versa, and that's it. Now she's gonna like start to lose her powers or whatever. Women at work. It's almost like a Brave New World type of vibe you could get from it too. Just like everything is so over the top, happy and positive. Most articulate character yet. The pregnant Barbie. Guess it'll be hard to even refer to or define characters because they're all going to be the same thing. You just have to give a label. There's a space Barbie. This is just like a little ostentatious. They're just showing off all the different kinds of ones over the years, probably that they made. I wonder how they decided to make this Ken and this Barbie the main one, though. They don't seem like these are the first ones. It's just. Okay, I'm making a play on the names already, how they're grading each other a million times. just have to assume all this stuff is real. Like Alan was really a doll, but I have no idea who he is. Um, haven't seen this awkward of an Alan since Two and a Half Men. Are there really this many fucking Barbies though? And a lot of them don't even look like what you would. I guess that's the point. Like the scene from the Truman Show where he crashes the boat into the sky, one of the best images in the history of cinema. Ken crashes into a fake wave. This must be some place that they had too, like a Barbie hospital. The whole women's right angle is, or whatever, encouraging women to do all these jobs is funny. Ken doing his little playing hard to get thing. So this is the song that everyone knows from the trailers and stuff. Dance the night away or whatever. Some of that dialogue was a little bit too like they're trying too hard. Like what the line where like the beach thing. Like my job is just beach. Like they're taking everything too literally based on the thing. Whatever, like the premise of the dolls and everything. Yeah, see, I do feel like trailers and stuff like that do ruin certain aspects. Like I know that this is the scene where she's gonna say, "Do you ever think about dying or something?" I wonder what really sets that off, though. So you go in with too much preconceived expectation and stuff. But I like this format because there's so many things that I could do, like literally anything. Because if you're not showing the movie, there's no restriction on it. Although so many people do that anyway, where they will show, like you're allowed to show 30% or X% of something, but I do feel like that's going to get annoying that everybody's Barbie and everybody's Ken. Or I guess maybe later on they'll go to the real world and it won't be like that, but Ken's getting all jealous here. This is the facial expression that became a bit of a meme. See, why is Ken so obsessed with that particular Barbie though? There's plenty of Barbies. See, to Barbie, he's just a Ken, but to Ken, she's the Barbie, the only one that matters. So somehow there must be some story behind that too. Everything is so perfect. So I wonder what's gonna trigger her existential crisis. It just happened right there. That's a good way to play it off. You think about dying, I'm just dying to dance. That's when she first realizes something's wrong. The moon was like a disco ball? It's like, do they not know that this world is fake, maybe, so there'll be some sort of crisis that way? They get sort of sick of all the overly positive elements. Barbie giving Ken the cold shoulder there. Good. I didn't know there was a president Barbie of all things. A bit of a Freudian slip, though. You wouldn't say you're not thinking about death if you weren't thinking about it. Like she's having a midlife crisis somehow, but then I don't know to what implication that means she ages or doesn't in this form. She probably doesn't. You can already tell she as soon as she wakes up something's wrong. Like she's gonna be different. Be very interesting to see what really triggered this though. Almost feels like a superhero movie where she's losing like her powers. Like Peter Parker, his glasses start to work or something. Or they start to not work because whatever. And she'll jump off and hit her head or something. You can play everything off as a joke, like she fell on purpose just to be funny. I don't know why all this is happening randomly though. Like, so now she lost her natural heels. You should almost like study all the different kinds before you watch this, so you know. They keep going into these like very verbose, like articulate, like with the pregnant Barbie and like that court scene in there. That's like a running trope that they'll keep being like super eloquent randomly. Oh yeah, this is where they another reference. There was some kind of a map of China that they got offended by or something. Now her delusions will be broken that oh everything is so perfect or we've made the world so perfect by being such good dolls and stuff. Stereotypical Barbie, like the only one that people watching the movie would probably think of or know. Because not everybody's an expert on the different kinds. So the threat is still just to her, like she'll become like the weird Barbie, but it's not like it'll ruin the whole Barbie world. I thought they'd say something like that, like it'll destroy the whole fabric of their fantasy world. But no, imagine being offended by a map in a movie about a doll in a real world context where the movie gets banned because of it somewhere. At least they explain that, so it's something to do with the girl playing with her. Uh, Oh, now they're setting up for everybody's gonna hate her or something. Actually, because they think they're such celebrities. But if all it takes is one girl to be sad, then you'd think this might happen a lot. But everyone's acting like they've never seen it before. And why the fuck would you need a rocket ship to get to California? This isn't a different planet. That was kind of a stupid scene where she accepts him coming along way too easily. That should have taken a while for him to earn that right. So he keeps following her, and eventually she accepts it. Clearly, this is meant to be Australia, the Barbie land that they're traveling from. Where else could it be? Some random island country? There's just like a lot of random stuff. That nobody's going to recognize them, or even the people who do aren't going to like them, probably. That line makes you think it's not really a movie for kids, even. even though it's supposed to kind of be, I thought. In fact, this whole section seems very not kid friendly. No, they should have started with a bit like they keep trying to call everybody, every guy Ken or every girl Barbie, because they wouldn't know any better. They're already on a crime spree. The best platonic relationship in movie history because based on what they said that they don't have any certain reproductive capabilities. Still a better love story than Twilight, huh? Some of it they're just taking so literally that it's almost, I guess it's supposed to be funny, but it's like we get that they're dolls. They don't have to keep beating that point like a dead horse. Oh, now he's gonna like discover something that whoever created the Barbie world or some kind of studio, whatever, they'll realize their origin somehow. They didn't like develop these characters enough though to me. I guess they were developing them as stereotypes, but still. So like they're so shocked by the world, but we barely know what they're normally like aside from what they're just supposed to be in their sort of predetermined roles. See, at least there Truman had more sense of personality, like good afternoon, good evening, and good night. That whole like whatever own idiosyncrasies he had, talking in the bathroom mirror. There's always something more to it. I guess I am gonna make those comparisons a lot because it's kind of I kind of get what they meant now by making that. That she's like somehow telepathically connected to the girl and she can see her whole life story, even though she couldn't do that before. The first time probably she's ever cried, or maybe she has tried. Tears of joy from how perfect everything is normally. This is kind of hard to do. I don't know. Like, you don't want to talk over it if somebody's like watching along, but at the same time, I don't want to pause it constantly, and then there's too much empty space. It's kind of different than what I'm used to doing, because I don't like the whole long form, reacting to something fully. And of course, some of these big streamers would do it in such a stupid way where they would actually show the whole fucking movie, like The Dark Knight, and they would think they can get away with it because, like, excuse here or whatever. So she's coming into touch with her emotions, or like you don't want to just narrate what's happening, or you want to pretend like obviously everybody already knows because they've seen the movie a million times, and this was a scene that they wanted to cut out, I guess, with the old lady on the bench. Two adults dressed like this going to a school. They kidnap a little kid. This will go perfectly well. They go to jail count 3 or 4. I don't know what. They stole some clothes and then they did something else. Oh yeah, they just punched somebody because they were hitting on her. Joke's on them though, right? Because she has no fun stuff. Is Will Ferrell gonna be the boss guy now? He'll be the Ed Harris character. He's no Kristoff. Just trying to bring them back to that world or something, keep them trapped there. Yeah, so at least they have it present him decently as an antagonistic character. Suddenly interested in trucks, but he's a beach goer. They're just gonna be dressed like this the whole movie though, in like these cowboy clothings. It's like the eloquent meme trope again. There's characters randomly go into that, but good that it's a kid doing it. Yeah, see, this is how the relationship between Ken and Barbie should have been on the trip. Like how they start off so adversarial. Now she'll have to win her over somehow. But if she doesn't even play with it all anymore, then why? Or maybe that is why she. So anytime anybody stops playing with the doll, you have to come to the real world and do this. And there's only one of each kind. He looks more like a nurse than a doctor. He should have started here at the beach. That's his specialty. But literally, they stole their clothes, and I like how that's going to be their look just forever. He goes, applies for like 50 different jobs, and she's still here at the school. Or is her mom the one who was working at the. Is that the same woman? I can't even tell. It must be. Who is like the receptionist. So now it's going to turn into like Born Identity type escape. And she's back to her old positive self all of a sudden. She's having like mood swings. She was just crying 5 seconds ago. Now he goes all the way back, and then he'll have to come back again. Oh shit! This should be presented as. It almost reminds me of the "Why can't we all get along" from Mars Attack scene. Like the implication that this is gonna kill her should be there. Like, then Ken's gonna come and rescue her or something. She's maybe smarter than she gives off too. Like she realized it. They seem like they're deliberately running slowly. I don't know why. They're almost portraying the Mattel people as kind of doll-like too, robotic somehow. That'll be the twist that they're dolls too. Because like the people in the normal world weren't really acting like that. I thought she would get like captured somehow, and then Ken would come back and rescue her. But Ken's just kind of dicking around back in the original world. But no, that line that he said is supposed to be like some kind of real line that some executive said, like, "Oh, we're not worried about Ken at all." That's like a real quote from somebody. Which again, I don't know how I know that either. Like I've just seen all these references and articles, I guess, to this somehow because it's such a big cultural phenomenon. Old lady scene number two, number three, I guess. Even though you can't drink it, don't have reproductive organs or digestive organs or anything, apparently. You must be some major real life person who had something to do with Barbie that you're just supposed to know based on her first name. But no, it's like that's very similar to the scene on the bench with the old woman. So they're kind of there's a different woman there, but still, like she keeps learning these valuable lessons from old women randomly. That was good. They're tied down by their bureaucratic machinations. Okay, I would have made this guy a little more serious of an antagonist, just so you take it more seriously, because you have enough comic relief from Barbie and Ken. Now they're turning this guy into too much of a clown. Like when he first, I don't know. Oh, that was actually kind of a good twist. So she's being all nostalgic about it, or the fact that she never got to have one herself, which could be every old woman ever, because maybe they didn't exist when they were a kid. But she's not that old. The unrealistic body image standard thing. But then they have the pregnant one too to balance that out. That's why they made all these different ones. That daughter is a good contrast to the original Barbie, though. How she was so overly optimistic. She's like so negative about everything. Oh, I thought they were like separated. So that joke about some other guy teaching her the card tricks is like her admitting to actually cheating on him. Now they're gonna bring back real people to the Barbie world. Yeah, that Born Identity thing was a good prediction that they would be on the run like that. Who needs GTA when you have this? So their solution to humans going to Barbie Land is to send more humans to Barbie Land. Yeah, I might have to edit this down actually a lot because there's a lot of pauses and weird stuff. But as long as the timestamp is there, I guess people, I don't know. Because you can't really talk through the whole thing. Random John Cena cameo. It'd be really interesting to see what the third act and final sort of payoff is going to be. Because a lot of it has just been sort of throwaway little bits and stuff, but is this going to be where he does his little song number? Here's the song. Happened very quickly while she was just away. Oh shit, Ken turning into the sleeper villain with actually a good sympathetic motivation. This is the best breakup ever if they were even together in the first place. All the Barbies expect another one to do the job, so none of them actually do it. The old thought experiment. Maybe the song isn't going to be in the movie. Yeah, you know what a lot of people thought when they first saw the whatever that 2001 trailer, they thought it was to do with Megan because the other movie about dolls that came out in the same year. I thought they would stay and actually somehow help them solve that though. Like have women take back over. Yeah, Alan hasn't really done anything so far. First actual action scene in the movie, I guess, randomly. That was probably the best moment though so far, just where Ken legitimately gets so passive aggressive, and I didn't think it would go quite in that direction. And I hope he stays like that the rest of the way, and he's like a actual villain, but he'll probably soften up. Skipper was the one who escaped before, I guess they said. That was a breaking the fourth wall moment. I think they forgot about the Mattel guys, or they'll come in and somehow be helpful. I don't know why, but almost like the I am Knuff thing could have been used to motivate Barbie there instead of that speech. But I don't know when that song would appear, if it does. There's almost just like too many of these random throwaway versions of these characters. Pretending to be terrible. Oh, now he's gonna try to play hard to get again, but it won't work. I feel like I've seen this scene too somehow. So many bait song moments. You think you're expecting I Am Knopf, but then you get this, or you're expecting Barbie World, but you get whatever other at the beginning, or even the what was that other one? Dance the Night Away. It's like some of these cartoonish visuals at times, like with the car or like with the fire there, but it's like very seldom that they use that. So they should have used that more in this world and not in the other. Obviously, in the real world, they didn't really use it, but so now they'll actually reconcile and get together, and then the Mattel guys will come and ruin the party. It makes it so obvious that they're all doing it at the same time, though. Those is a good part of the movie to kind of space out. Oh, here we go. Now we get the I am Knopf. But no, that was a good like little sub conflict to make you forget about the Mattel thing, and then now they're gonna come and whatever. Probably at the end of this song, it'll be interrupted by that, and then they'll have to work together or something. Yeah, I knew they wouldn't have just made this as a promo. They would have had to use this in the movie. Or I almost wish you would have seen through that and somehow like still tried to be all passive aggressive and not let them do it. Or I wonder if this is actually him singing it. It almost seems like it. Second actual fight scene of the movie. Or there's that shot from the beginning or from some trailer or something. Definitely breaking my rule. If you should go into a movie knowing as little about it as possible, but this one was somehow hard to help. Or maybe I didn't think I was even going to watch it at all, but like how the weird Barbie has taken on like a leadership role too, and everybody kind of respects her. It just appeared so anticlimactically though, the fucking Mattel people. So many things that either are random or they seem random because you don't know all the lore of all these dolls, and there must be everything is still somehow a reference to something, but reference equals funny, the oldest trick in the book. Just because you refer to something else, you make a reference to something that isn't funny in and of itself, but because it's a reference, it therefore becomes funny somehow, apparently. He doesn't actually say I am Knopf in here, does he? I thought that was the whole joke. Or there's like some shirt or something that's supposed to say that. But no, the one big difference I would have made is made the Mattel people maybe more serious or antagonistic, because you need some sort of contrast to everything not being taken seriously, or everything sort of played for laughs. The one moment like that, that's always important. Like that one moment that was like that was actually pretty good is where Ken goes all passive aggressive and he's like, you know, when they do the whole takeover. And now it's set up perfectly for them to work together against the Mattel as the final act here. It went from a fight to them singing together, though, so I don't even get what happened there. But see, the real lesson here should be that they become equals, not that they just take back over and reduce the Kens to their original station. That's sort of not learning a lesson from the whole experience of why they were so upset in the first place. So if it did end like this, it would be stupid. And Alan's obviously a degenerate traitor. Severe scene of cope. Yeah. He's gonna blue ball him to the end, though, still, I bet. They won't actually end up together. You must say that line somewhere. I am enough. Come on. Just screaming for the Mattel guys to come and interrupt it in some sort of explosive way. There we go. Perfect prediction. Just blue ball them all the way. Fuck. Yeah, some antagonists they were too. What the fuck? They didn't do anything. So Ruth was the narrator the whole time. Or maybe she was the old lady on the bench too, and maybe that's what it should have been. They didn't do a very good job with the Will Ferrell character, though they should have had more of an agenda for him. He came all the way here to do nothing, basically. Oh, there's the I am Knopf. And they do kind of cuck the Kens, like they don't actually give them anything. They're still like acting, oh yeah, you're second class citizens, and so I've never heard that as a nickname for Barbara, though, Barbie. So the mother and the daughter just gonna get trapped in the world. They didn't say anything about them going back. I love how casually the Kens just get put back in their place, though. Like, I thought there would be some sense that they're equal at the end. Like, imagine if it was done the other way. Oh, yeah, the Barbies are just second class citizens at the end. No big deal. Or they even say it in like a snarky way. Maybe someday the Kens will have enough rights as the women do in the real world. That was kind of a weird way to end that storyline. So now she'll choose to leave, but then She never got back her heels at any point, I don't think. She was always like that. Or they never showed it, at least. So many songs in here, but not the one that you really would have wanted. So this is just the credits. So yeah, I mean, it was okay. I feel like they do make a few mistakes actually that I wasn't expecting on what, because Greta Gerwig is a good filmmaker, but they kind of play too much literally, like, okay, haha, they're dolls, and they kind of just make jokes on that and references to some of them, right? So whether you know the whole lore of them or not, that's still besides the point. Alan was kind of one of the better, you know, sort of just out of left field kind of characters. So they did a good job with him, but I would have made the Will Ferrell and the whole Mattel stuff a little more antagonistic. It starts off that way, and then they kind of just don't do anything. The mother has a few of these really, uh, whatever. See, I don't even know her name. The mother of that girl had like a few sappy sort of speeches that weren't really that good. Um, it just, I don't know. It wasn't that anything memorable for the amount of money it made, I guess. It just doesn't go far enough. Like, it needed some other plot point to it. I did like the whole Ken takeover. That was sort of unexpected. It was all right. Like, huh. It just plays it too like tongue in cheek. Like everything is just, you know, not taken seriously enough. Or wait, no, it is playing the song now. What? They somehow added in the credits, maybe of this version, but it was supposed to be not in the original movie. Weird. I guess I was wrong. My whole complaint the whole movie that they didn't use the song, or my, I just read somewhere that it wasn't in there though. So yeah, I don't know. It really wasn't all that special. If I had to rate, I'd give it like 3 out of 5. It's okay. Maybe not even. There's just something missing to it, like some other. It's kind of all over the place, and too much of it is again just like caricature type stuff. Like, oh, there's all these different ones that are there just to be, their stereotypical role, which you could say is the point. But like the President Barbie, or like you barely even get to know too many of them much. What else? Like, so the Mattel thing was kind of a waste. Ken was okay. His villain arc was good. The song was okay. What else? Alan was pretty enjoyable. Um, yeah, the characters did feel, I guess, even for lack of what they're meant to be, is what do you call it? Like, and now it's suggesting as the next thing, Barbie Dream House Challenge. But, um, like, yeah, I almost would want to see whether the old woman on the bench was the same as the old woman in the Ruth. Maybe she wasn't, but that was the scene they wanted to take out for some reason, where she calls the woman on the bench beautiful or whatever, just her reminiscing on the bench. The mother character wasn't really that interesting either. Like, she's given this role, like she's so important, and I guess she's also the secretary of the Mattel or whatever. But I didn't think that character really worked. Some of the writing there is kind of not. I don't know. The writing in general is just sort of like it's too just whatever. Like it just does whatever it wants. It's kind of hard to explain. There needed to be a little more structure to it, or like the Roger Ebert quote, like where anything, if anything can happen, then you don't really care what happens. It's just sort of arbitrary. They're just doing whatever they want. There was a little bit of good game theory element. That part was written by Christopher Nolan with the whole planning and trying to take back Barbie Land from the Kens. That was at least pretty good. How they came up with the plan and everything like that. But other than that, a lot of it was just sort of random stuff. So not really that good. What else? I don't even need to do an outro. I'll just do it during the credits. So it'd be interesting to see now as I watch this back, or if I go to upload it, how much would I actually edit out? Because there's no point leaving those moments of silence, I guess, because, or maybe, I don't know, because it would be the equivalent of like, now I could just show the clips of only the points where I say something, right? But I don't really want to show any of the video, especially with something so new. But this is the whole beauty of doing it like this. You could do this with anything ever, just because you don't actually have to show it. And just in principle, I wouldn't really want to do that anyway, but that's the majority staple. If you look at content like this, people will show entire full episodes of an anime or a TV show or 30% of a movie or something that they're somehow able to get away with. But yeah, I don't really like the idea of doing that. So the only discrepancy with the timer might be like the very beginning where it shows like the HBO Max logo, because that might not be in your version if you're just watching some other form of it. But that was only like a second or two, so that shouldn't make too much of a difference. Yeah, this is kind of a unique way to do it. No face cam, no actual showing of the video or anything. But yeah, the difficulty I found was just, you know, you want to show the whole thing, but you're not really showing anything, and so you want to give like your full long form reaction to it, but at the same time, you can't really talk over it, or I don't really want to, and then so there's going to be a lot of empty space there. But yeah, I found the dialogue kind of a little bit just too either expositional, or again, they're just saying whatever they want, like just taking things too literally. I don't know. It's definitely, don't compare it to the fucking Truman Show, please. But I get why that kind of makes sense, because like you're in this alternate world or whatever, and they're going off satire and everything. I like that Warner Brothers logo of the Barbie. But no, I definitely wasn't that impressed by it. Certainly given this box office total. Like, let's look up some stuff about it actually here. Barbie movie. Let's look up some reviews and whatnot. I think that's the big mistake it makes. Everything could be funny in that same sense that they were trying to go for. I guess the timestamp isn't even relevant now. It's just whatever. But basically, it's a case where you're trying to look at it like they make that core mistake, right? Like they like winking to the camera. There's even that really stupid line like Margot Robbie was not the right choice for this. And what makes that even dumber is the fact that she's a producer for the movie. So it's almost a little bit of a it's just irritating. They didn't need to do that, where they break the fourth wall or whatever and say she wasn't the right choice if you were trying to make this point about her being sad or whatever. But yeah, let's see, how much did it make? It made 1.4 billion. And let me look at some of the reviews that other critics actually had. Critical response attained critical acclaim. I don't know. Praised the script for addressing past criticism of Barbie's brand, lack of women, blah blah blah, diversity, infusing humor. Critics who felt it did not go far enough in critiquing consumerism, but also the way it does it is just too like on the nose. Like it's, like there could have been a layer like where they don't know that they're living in the Barbie world, but they don't know it. The fact that she's calling herself stereotypical Barbie even from the beginning, right? That you're too self-aware of what you are, but you're still okay with it. I thought there would be some sort of, they're living in this world and they think they're real, and then all of a sudden they realize that they're dolls, and that would have been some sort of breaking point, right? If you are going to analogize it to the Truman Show, like where he's on a TV show, but he doesn't know he's on it for a while. So they should have started off like that. Then they realize they're not, whatever, that their world is a lie. The one good thing they do, I guess, in that sense, is they realize that everybody in the real world kind of hates them or something. That part, at least, is, or, there's like a negative element to it, or like the body image that you could look at, like, oh, unrealistic body standards, but that doesn't mean that you have to take it so literally. Let's see. But yeah, I'm actually shocked by how positive the reviews are. Barbie is a visually dazzling comedy, meta humor. It's just not really meta, though. It's too, I don't know. I wish I could think of like a direct example of a lot of the dialogue is just, I don't know. It's too self-aware. The characters are too much saying exactly what you would think they would say. A lovely, eccentric, imaginative example. Free and wild. It really wasn't what I was expecting. Let me look at the Rotten Tomato stuff. Yeah, 6.9. Let's see what fans have to say about it. That always seems to be more negative, but it made so much money. There'll be a lot of people hating on it just because of its popularity, but it was visually good, and I'm sure, again, a lot of those references you could say that might be the defense that people have is like, and even in the listings of cats, they're just called Barbie, Barbie, Ken. They should always say President Barbie or this Barbie. But yeah, most of those were forgettable throwaway characters, which you could say is the point. Literally throwaway, like you're throwing away a doll. But yeah, is it for kids? Because there were some lines in there that were not for kids. I would have taken those out actually. Like the difference of 1.4 billion movie, you wouldn't take away some suggested references were present in the movie, which were a big contributor to a PG-13 rating. All you would have had to do is take out that one scene at the construction site and a couple other ones, because that's the whole irony of it. Why shouldn't it be for kids when it's about dolls that don't even have reproductive organs or whatever? Or that's the whole funny thing at the end that, oh, haha, she's becoming a real woman. That was kind of stupid too. Like that's the big punchline of the movie that it's supposed to be she's becoming a real person. 88% audience says how did they even do these audience consensuses on Rotten Tomatoes? Like their audience says clever, funny, poignant. How can you know what the audience says? The audience actually says some random meme dumb shit because that's what people do online. Even the critics consensus I always wonder about. Who's really decides that? Barbie is a visually dazzling comedy whose meta humor. Yeah, see, whatever they're calling meta humor, I just disagree with. It would work better if you played it more straight. Like either they don't know their dolls, or to live in Barbie Land is to be a perfect being in a perfect place, unless you're full on existential crisis or you're a Ken. One of the best films of the year in cinematographic terms. Best comedy, I don't know. Like again, I'm not gonna hold that against it that like I'm normally like that, where I'm desensitized to horror. I normally don't get scared by stuff, or I'm desensitized to comedy, like I don't really find stuff funny. That's just how I am. Like, because when you go into it expecting that, see, what I find funny is something that's not meant to be, like so bad it's good, like The Room or whatever. But I'm not gonna hold that against every comedy in existence. Um, but yeah, there's so many other things I should watch. Like I haven't seen Oppenheimer or whatever. But at least I was doing this more so just to test the format. I didn't really like it, honestly. I'm surprised I'm not seeing that. Like it's one of those wink at the camera kind of writing styles, or just storylines where it's supposed to be funny because the joke is that they're dolls, and that's the one joke in the movie, and they keep beating like a dead horse, and they're making references and in jokes, but there was no other strong narrative to it, really. Huh. That like they're, you know what this almost reminds me of a little bit is Get Out, the way that because it deals with the subject of race or whatever, people are giving it credit like, oh, so it's therefore poignant or profound. The movie itself is nothing extraordinary. It's just a generic horror movie with some of the typical tropes. So just because it happens to deal with that subject matter, I don't think it deals with it particularly well or subtly. In fact, it's super unsubtle with like how the party scene is going on and everybody's making direct references to it, and they're kind of just shoving that sort of in your face, and the auction is like very ostentatiously done, like what they're showing is very bold faced. So it wasn't subtle. So in the same sense here, like, oh, it's supposed to be satirical, or it's supposed to be talking, making analogies about feminism or this or that, but it's doing it in such a bold faced way. There was no real nuance or subtlety to it. The only credit I'll give it is maybe some of the references and in jokes with the history of Barbie might be done well. But other than that, I'm not going to give it any special credit. And you shouldn't even say that you should need to know all that going in. Like, oh, it would make more sense or be more funny if you knew all the history of it. But I'm even giving it the benefit of the doubt there. Let's see what some of these audience reviews are, because I'm almost at a loss for how to explain exactly what it is that I'm saying. Trivia, did you know, is 23% larger than everything in Barbie Land to mimic the awkward, disproportionate scale that real Barbies and Barbie activities are produced in. This is why Barbie sometimes appears too large for things like her car, or why ceilings seem to be too low. And there was like this pseudo fantasy element to it, like where stuff is happening, like even some of the visuals, but it's not consistent. Like some of the stuff in the Barbie world seems like, it still looks more realistic, even if it looks like a prop. And then some of it looks like uh, totally cartoonish. So I don't know what the whole deal with that was. Where does it show you actually the audience reviews on here? 6.9, 457. Let's actually see, yeah, how hilarious. 69. Show me some weighted, or did they remove the ability of people to do that? Like, I just want to see a negative audience written review. User reviews. Why did they hide this away? Here we go. Beautiful film, but so preachy. And again, it's not even preachy. It's just like, it's trying to be like funny or something. There was one good scene with Will Ferrell where he's talking to Barbie about, when they first meet. That was kind of a good scene where I was comparing it almost to the Mars Attacks thing where can't we all just get along, right? The way he was sort of putting it on, like he's such a phony, but he's still trying to say something profound. But there's too many scenes like that. In particular, the speeches of the mother were kind of lame. I didn't like that. Warning spoilers, but there's nothing even in this review. Oh, here we go. Lady Bird, Little Women. I guess she does have an interesting track record with putting some of that, what you could see as feministic sort of stuff into movies, but here it doesn't matter one way or the other. 3 reasons for seeing it and 1 reason against. As a guy who felt some discomfort, yeah, that thing I got to shit all over too. How the Kens are left as second-class citizens, and that's just played for laughs, and that's supposed to be okay, right? Like, it starts off, the Barbies are in power, then the Kens take over, and then the Barbies take over again. And so it's not the equality lesson that you would think. Too heavy-handed. I wouldn't even say it's heavy-handed. I would just say it's not subtle, and it's just kind of very surface level. As a woman that grew up with Barbie, I was excited for this movie. Feminist messaging could have been so much more effective if it was laid on so thick. I think they meant to say if it wasn't laid on so thick. More humor and nuance, exactly. Story gets lost, real world, everything's just sort of arbitrary. It's a portal, it's this, it's that. Whatever has to happen, has to happen. It's a very surface level movie. And yeah, the third act wasn't what I thought it could be. There should have been more of the antagonistic quality. Marketing was more entertaining than the movie. Yeah, brilliant observations, but depth is missing. I agree with that. Jumbled mess. It just works in sort of the pop culture way, but I don't think it has anything else special to it. So yeah, whatever. What I'm interested to see is how I actually decide to cut this down. Maybe I could just literally cut out all the moments of silence, and just you would still see the timestamp there the rest of the way.